The importance of events like this is to highlight the importance of memory. We must always look back at our history, not because we want to romanticize the past, but because the ancient landmarks of history give us a sense of our bearings and help us to navigate the present and the future. I think that it is that the Edo State government is pursuing a cultural agenda that includes the recovery of the lost treasures of the Benin Kingdom from all of the places where it has been taken across the world. The invasion of the Benin Kingdom in 1897 would have ended a lesser civilization. Instead, the royal dynasty survived, and the legacy of Benin endured not only through the lineage of its noble royal houses, but also in the evident resilience of the people. I've just had the pleasure of inspecting some of the works of the local guild of craftsmen and artisans that have existed for more than 500 years. This is an example of what the spirit of Benin is all about: resilience, tenacity, and creativity. These are attributes that can elevate and inspire our nation as a whole to greater achievements. I'd like to commend His Excellency the Governor for his vision and his leadership, especially in seeking to reposition Edo State as a foremost destination for investment and tourism. As we diversify our economy and move our nation in the direction of revenues beyond oil, tourism is clearly one sector which has untold potential for growth. Edo State is clearly blazing a trail in this direction. I think the governor has rightly prioritized arts and culture, and by showcasing its rich heritage, Edo State will attract global attention for all of the right reasons. Before coming here, I was taken around the National Museum on a most fascinating tour, and I've seen much that fills me with great hope. Among the treasures on display are the artifacts that highlight the deep socio-cultural linkages between the Benin on the one hand and other ethnic communities such as the Gala, the Urhobos, the Igbos, the Yorubas, the Hausas, the Fulanis, amongst other groups. Both archaeological and historical facts validate something that many of us have always intuitively known, that there is much more that unites us than actually divides us. Often we look to our past to emphasize or exaggerate our differences, but part of the legacy of ancient Benin is a constant reminder of the similarities between our diverse peoples. I'm delighted to have been able to tour the museum with the very enthusiastic students from the various schools in Edo State, about 4 or 5 schools in Edo State. And by acquainting themselves with the treasures of Benin, they've also hopefully been infused with a thirst for historical knowledge, and have also received an invaluable awareness of the depth of the things that bind us together. One of our tasks as artists, as scholars, as enthusiasts, and as citizens interested in reclaiming our heritage is to ensure that we constantly interrogate our past with an eye for our common world, rather than merely rehashing our differences. This matters because it is only by standing together that we can prevail over the challenges that confront us. These challenges know neither tribe nor tongue. They afflict us all universally, and it's only by uniting in our diversity that we can hope to overcome them. This is why we gather together as a community this afternoon to deliberate on some of those issues of mutual concern. I know that this is officially called a town hall meeting, but I think that what we have had here is more like a village square meeting in the final tradition of our people. I've listened very carefully to the contributions and questions, and I'm just going to see the ones that I can answer as quickly as I can. The ones that I cannot answer, I shall leave them to the Almighty God to deal with. And the although there are a few that are directed also to the government. Let me start with the question that was asked by Mr. Louis Parker. And he wanted the National Stadium named after I think the very National Theatre. Yes, the National Theatre named after Fela. Well, I don't see any reason why not. The only problem, of course, is that it is not in my place to decide what national monument or structure is named after any particular individual. But I must say that I agree with you that Fela is as deserving as any to have such a historic monument named after him. We also talked about there being no funding for music, especially internet music. And you spoke about something like the NigerianMusic.com. Truth of the matter is that if you look at all the examples that I've given, they're all private sector driven examples. Because in order to sustain any of these things, they must have a profit motive, a clear profit motive. Government is the poorest businessman you will ever find. And that is why I certainly do not support the idea of government investing in those things. What we've tried to do is to see how we can get funding for private sector individuals who want to invest. So for example, there are two very good funds so far, two very good initiatives for funding creativity and for funding the creatives in Nigeria. One is the Bank of Industry. The Bank of Industry has put together a fund for culture and innovation, and we think that that will be one that will be able to satisfy some of these initiatives or some of these ideas. The other is the MasterCard Foundation. They have also indicated that they're very happy to invest in creatives and in entertainment generally. So I think that the kinds of things that government can do is really to see how we can invest by way of funding and then encourage investments in some of these areas. And I think that we can certainly do so through some of the funding initiatives that I mentioned. The Vice President of the Market Women, the Vice President, talked about commodities being expensive. And I think that we must take this very seriously indeed. Part of what we've seen is that we've tried, for example, if you look at some of the activities going on in the country, one of them is shutting the borders. When we shut the borders, one of the reasons why we shut the borders was because of the smuggling that was going on. And we wanted to ensure that we got the attention of our neighbors to take more seriously the countries that are neighbors, to take more seriously the question of policing our borders. What smuggling did, especially the smuggling of rice or fish and all of those things, was that it discouraged local production. A lot of our farmers who farm rice, crops and all of that, also want to have a market. One of the biggest employers of labor in our country is farming, agriculture. If we allow the Chinese to just bring in all that, the Chinese, Indians, Vietnamese, all of these people who bring in rice, to continue to bring in our rice, we will kill farming completely. And most of our people will not be employed. Sometimes there may be some pay in order to gain. Sometimes we will have to take some pay. The countries of the world that are developed, all the China, Vietnam, they don't allow anybody to bring in rice or anything like that in their countries. They make sure they grow what they eat. And I can assure you that very, very soon, we will see a great deal of progress. We will see more of our own commodities coming into the market. Once our commodities come into the market, we have so much fish. If you see the amount of fish we have in Nigeria, yet frozen fish is imported, is smuggled in every single day. And we can do these things. If we allow our own people will prosper. And our people must prosper. And the only way by which our people can prosper is if we let them use the opportunities that they have. Farming, fishing, all of those opportunities. So I want you, the market women, to bear with us, to see to it that, and we are going to make sure, as I said, that we look at this question, all of it, making sure that commodities are cheaper. But we must also bear in mind that the reason today why some commodities are more expensive is because we've stopped smoking. That's the reason. And we have to encourage our local farmers so that our local farmers also can prosper and more of our people can prosper. The other question that was asked, I think it was from the comrade, well, the comrade from Yemi commended the government. Thank you very much for that. Then there was a question from, I think, the filmmakers about arts and culture and education and how this can boost and how we need to boost the investment in assets. I think that one thing that we must recognize is that NAFES and festivals like this are some of the contributions that government makes to try to boost arts and culture. Those are some of the contributions. But I agree with you that we are not doing enough. We can do much more. There is much more reason for governments, state governments, even local governments, as well as the federal government, to promote arts and culture. And we must be able to tell our representatives, even our senators, members of House of Representatives, we vote them into office. We must tell them, as part of the constituency projects that we are doing, come and sponsor a cultural festival in your own local government. Sponsor a cultural festival in your territorial district. If we promote our culture in this way, we can't rely on only one, we can't rely on state government alone or local government alone. We must spread it such that we are able to do as much as possible. I think the students asked for history books. Clearly, this is something that we need. I'm sure we'll be able to. I'm sure that will be done. We've gone from Indian collector to our computer library. I'm sure I'll just need His Excellency to answer those. I think there was a question from a young lady who wanted to know how we could promote our culture so that we're not being discriminated against by the various, by other countries that currently discriminate against us. And I think that you are definitely speaking the minds of most of us. The reason why we are gathered is to ensure that our culture is promoted so that Nigerians and Nigerian culture is taken seriously all over the world. As you can see for yourself, already, people take Nigerian culture very seriously. The other day, I showed a clip of how in China, some schools were learning the Igbo language in China, the primary school. They were learning Igbo there. Yoruba language is learned in so many different places, so many different cultures, the Cubans, the Brazilians, etc. So even where we do not take ourselves as seriously as all that, all over the world we are being taken seriously. Our traditional attires are taken seriously everywhere. People like our headgear, the kind of headgear where our mama wear there now, and the kind of way people like the best. Everywhere in the world, everywhere in the world, they wear our now. Yes, thank you very much. So there's a lot going on, and I think that we need to promote our culture a lot more. There's a question I think on the copyright levy, and my understanding is that so far a lot has gone on with that levy. I think there was an action in court. In fact, I think the levy, they started collecting the levy, but then an action arose in court. I'd probably like to take that in greater detail of that. But my understanding is that the levy was being collected, I think, by the, I'm not too sure if the Copyright Association, and then it was challenged in court. I'll be able to give you further details on that. I'm almost certain that they started collecting that levy, and then between the two associations, there was a challenge to the court. But I can also supply the details of that. All over the world. But I think Comrade Obasiri wanted to know about youth, I think youth empowerment, and how to do a lot more youth empowerment. Let me say first that even here in Benin, about 3 weeks ago, the federal government did some empowerment for creatives. About 1,500 young people were actually hosted for a federal government training as part of the Empower training. And this training included script writing, post-production, animation, And this was the first in the southern part of Nigeria. There's one that's been held already in the northern part of Nigeria. The whole idea is to train people using technology in particular, and using current technology to be able to train creatively. So that we are now talking a lot about animation, and so many different countries of the world are interested in taking animation, their experts from Nigeria. We are trying to train a lot of our young people as part of the EXCELLENCY program, even in script writing, post-production activities and all of that. So that is already going on. I'm just here in Benin, about 2 weeks ago. That whole session was completed. I think it took about 2 weeks or so here. So there's a lot of activities that's going on. I think it was the Reverend who wanted to know about the name opinion, I think the name opinion that's been on for a very, very long time. Well, I think we have to talk about that again, and the governor is also thinking about what sort of initiatives might be helpful. Because, as we said, the road is very important. Truth is that the federal government cannot do all of the roads that we have. So we're looking at all the options. In some cases, private or public sector, in some cases, the states taking over. We're even offering tax credit to big companies that can take over some of the roads in exchange for tax credit. But I'm sure that was some of our consultations with the government of the state. But they were in a position to do a bit more on that particular area. The irrevocable contract with NEPA, there is no such thing as an irrevocable contract. I imagine that you might be talking about the discos, but the discos are private entities. But what we've been trying to do is to look at some of the discos, and I think some of them have a big disappointment. Part of the reason is that they simply don't have the resources to invest. And that's why in your state in particular, the government has taken the initiative of trying to do its own power CDF. And I believe that very soon we will begin to see the results of that. I think there's a very major initiative going on. I believe that working with some of the transition initiatives for the federal government, we will soon see a good example of the state government that takes over its own power needs here in Benin City. I think that there's also, a question. I'm not so sure whether that was the last question. I think that was the last question that was last. Okay, I think that was the last question. So I just want to thank you all very much again for not just for attending this very historic event, but also for all that you have continued to do, especially all of our men and women in the arts and culture. We believe very strongly that arts and culture is the way that our country will be able to get the very best narratives. All of what we are seeing so far, all over the world, is a greater interest in Nigeria. And a lot of that interest has been demonstrated because of what our young men and women have been doing in entertainment. And also what many have been doing in Nollywood and so many other initiatives in arts and culture. So I want to congratulate you all and thank you all very much. God bless you.